Welcome to Kaicreative and welcome to another filmmaking video. My name is Kai Song and today we are talking about creating a marketing, promotional, business video. So whether it's a new service, a new app, a new website, a new course, or a new product, everyone wants a promotional video for something. I personally am a videographer, filmmaker, animator, and all-round visual creative, and because of this I find myself doing a lot of work for corporate companies, in particular filming and editing promotional videos, and that's what we're talking about today. And I really wanted to go through the process that I take for creating a promotional marketing business video. So let's jump into it. Point number 1, create a storyboard. So first up, before you can even think about getting your camera equipment ready and filming, I highly recommend putting a storyboard and shooting scripts together. Storyboarding helps you figure out exactly what shots you need before you start filming. And a shooting script is kind of like a screenplay for your video. Now you often hear that filmmaking and visual creativity is all about storytelling. And so having your client's story strongly in your mind with the storyboards can really help with your filming on the day. And it also helps you and your client to visualize what the end product is going to look like. You don't have to be Leonardo da Vinci to draw your storyboard, and you don't necessarily have to hire an artist to create one. It all depends on the budget of the project. Sometimes a few rough sketches or even a few stick figures will do the job. Just make sure you know what shots you need before you start filming, and the more time you spend actually planning your video, the less likely you are to find yourself missing footage later on. Number 2, prepare your talent. Point number 2 is to prepare your presenters or interview subjects or actors. Now, in the same way that you would get actors to read and try to memorize their lines for a film, you also want to prepare any talent that you're using for your promotional video. So for example, if you're going to be interviewing people, make sure you get the questions that they'll be asked out to them beforehand so that they can prepare and they can practice. If you're going to be using actors, whether they're professional or not, get them a script or a character role or something that they can read through to help them prepare. Making sure that all your presenters, actors, and interview subjects know what is expected of them beforehand will help to minimize mistakes or wasted time on the day of the shoot. Number 3, B-roll. So having your storyboard ready will also help you visualize what type of B-roll you will need. B-roll is essentially any footage that isn't part of your primary shot. If you're filming a promotional video for a new website or a new app, your B-roll may include shots of people using the website or using the app on a phone. Now you also need to think about establishing shots. How is the video going to start? How is it going to end? With my promotional videos, I often get wide establishing shots to help set the location, especially for event promo videos. I also film a lot of detail shots that can really help to push the story along. Now remember that there's no such thing as too much B-roll. Shoot absolutely everything that you can. And also consider getting different types of shots for the same thing. So maybe get some pull focus shots, get some slider shots, get some gimbal shots, different close-up shots, really mix it up. And also consider using higher frame rates like 50 FPS to get slow motion into your B-roll. So I generally shoot at 25 FPS for all my main content like presentations and interviews, and then I'll change it to 50 FPS for the B-roll. That can be a little bit annoying and fiddly, continually changing your video settings over, but it gives you a lot more to play with in post-production. Now we've already created a more in-depth video on B-roll. If you wanted to check that out, the link is in the description below. Number 4, rule of thirds. Following on from B-roll, we should probably talk about composition. Now I did say that you should film everything, but that isn't a license to just hold the camera around and randomly film things. You need to actually think about how you frame or stage your shots. And in particular, an important rule of composition is the rule of thirds. So essentially you want to imagine your shot is divided into 9 equal sectors by 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines with 4 interconnecting points. The rule of thirds stipulates that your shot should be composed so that your subject of interest is on one of the lines or on one of the interconnecting points. This makes it easier for the eye to read, and it makes for a much more aesthetically pleasing shot overall. Many cameras today enable you to overlay a grid onto your viewfinder, making it easy to compose your shots before and during filming. Again, we've already created a more in-depth video on the rule of thirds, so if you're interested in that, check that link down in the description below. Number 5, picture settings and white balance. You will have probably noticed that many corporate videos have a certain look. Oftentimes the picture style is less contrasted and less saturated than other videos like films or movies. They have more of a neutral picture setting. And this is because very low contrast images feel lighter and more relaxed, while higher contrast images feel much more sinister and suspenseful. So getting your picture settings right will definitely help set the tone and message of your video. 2 things to help you get your picture looking right are through correctly setting your white balance and choosing or creating a neutral picture setting on your camera. So first of all, your white balance. Many cameras have an auto white balance feature, but I strongly recommend learning how to set it manually. This avoids relying on your camera to achieve a correctly balanced shot. Setting the white balance on a Canon camera is as simple as shooting a white piece of paper or a white card in the room or the light of the area that you'll be filming in, selecting the custom white setting in the menu, and then choosing that picture as a reference for the white balance, and your white balance is set. For picture settings, I personally use a custom standard setting for my promotional work with the contrast and saturation reduced, but you can also select a neutral setting from the menu of most Canon DSLR cameras, and these 2 can be customized. Now again, I've done a more in-depth video on my picture settings and general camera settings that I use for my corporate video work. Again, you can find links to those in the description below. Number 6, lighting. Of course, correctly setting our white balance and changing our picture settings will be of no use at all unless we have proper light to shoot with, and making sure our shot is correctly exposed can save us a lot of time and work later on in post-production. If you get a chance, try and visit the filming location beforehand. This will definitely give you an idea of what the light will be like and best help you to plan your shots. If you can't arrange a recce, then jump onto the website of the location and use any pictures available to try to gauge the feel of the light that will be there. Or if you're in contact with an event manager or someone running the project, ask them to go there, take some pictures on their phone and send them back to you. Now, while actually filming, try to avoid things that will blow out your shot, like open windows and big screens with projectors on them. If you are filming interviews, try to evenly light any subjects you're filming with your own lighting equipment. Now sometimes a shot might look good on that small LCD screen on your camera, but after you watch it back on a bigger screen, you might realize that it's too overly exposed. To avoid this, make sure you use things like zebra lines, and also use your exposure meter as much as possible to correct your exposure. And if anything, make sure you underexpose, as opposed to overexpose your shots. This is because it's easier to brighten underexposed shots than to fix overly exposed, blown out shots in post-production. And again, while it's possible to correct image brightness and contrast in post-production, it's always better to try and get the shot right on the day. Sometimes you might need to film in dark hotel rooms or in places with dull orange lighting. So make sure you bring some of your own lights and bring some decent lenses with fast apertures to help you compensate for these. Now, I recently filmed a promo video of an event and knew that the location was going to be dark. So I hired a wide lens with f-stop 2.8 for a cutaway safety shot of a second camera, and having that fast aperture really helped in that dark location. Number 7, sound and acoustics. Before you start filming, check the acoustics of the location in which you're shooting. Lots of hard walls will create echoes, crowded areas will create a buzz of sound that is almost impossible to remove in post-production, and filming outside will come with its own acoustic challenges when it comes to noise from traffic or from nature. Again, a recce of these locations beforehand will help you assess what action you will need to take to get good sound. It also depends on what you need for your promotional video in terms of sound. So if you're filming an interview to cut into your promotional piece, find a quiet place to shoot these. Use lapel mics and ensure you set the sound levels to the individual voice levels of each person talking to avoid peaking on your recordings. If you're going to be outside and you need to have crystal clear audio from someone talking, acting or presenting, then consider getting a separate sound professional boom operator to work on your project for you and let them worry about getting you great sound. Number 8, post-production. So we've covered the basics for shooting on the day. Now let's run through the editing process. Everyone has a way of editing that they are comfortable with, and I'll be briefly outlining my process of putting a promotional piece together. I personally use Adobe Premiere Pro. It gets its fair share of hates, but I find that it has everything that I need to do the editing jobs that I do, especially with the option of dynamic linking, which enables you to seamlessly move between Premiere Pro and other Adobe programs such as After Effects and Illustrator, making it a powerful tool for your video business. Number 9, motion graphics. As we've just mentioned Adobe After Effects, this might be a good junction to mention animated assets. Now, you don't necessarily have to be an animation wizard to create simple, clean motion graphics, but having your client's logo animate in or a lower thirds animation can really make a massive difference to the quality of your production rather than using a simple static logo or lower thirds. Some of the marketing videos that I create are purely animated with a voiceover. And what I find is that more and more clients want animated videos, and this is because even though animations can cost a little more money initially to produce than simple filming and editing, they can also work out cheaper than booking in whole filming days away, as well as hiring out kit, crew, actors and props. It's much cheaper and simpler to animate a plane doing acrobatics than hiring a real pilot and a real plane and then trying to film it. So it might be worth considering if getting involved in animation and After Effects is worth doing for your clients and to help you up your video game by adding more value into your productions. Number 10, separate and clean. So let's jump back into the editing. One thing I like to do is to tidy up all of my footage before putting anything real together. So first of all, I separate the B-roll from the main footage. You can do this by organizing them into different folders. Your main footage is going to be things like the presentations, seminars, panels, sessions, interviews, and of course all the audio files that go along with them. I will also then create a separate folder for the B-roll and put all the B-roll into those folders. After this, I will then sound sync all the files for the main parts that require sound syncing. I use a program called Pluralize, which makes it really easy. And I will cut out the parts that have camera movement, zooming, panning, and then I will save those files to use later in the main video. I will then continue onto the B-roll by laying out all of these clips into one timeline and then going through, cleaning them up and clearing out all the dud bits and deleting the double takes. Number 11, music. If you listen carefully to most promotional videos, you will hear a jingle or some sort of background music of some sort of description. Now, not every video needs background music, but if you're going to use music, then be mindful of what you decide to use. For example, you probably wouldn't expect to hear death metal in a promotional video for a new line of baby clothes. Make sure your music fits your project. And sometimes music is the main focus of the video. A lot of typography videos use fast, upbeat drum music to set the pace of the content. I probably should add, if you are involved in making this type of promo video, make sure the script is solid, as making changes later on can be an absolute nightmare. Trust me, I've been there. You don't want to make any changes. Also, pay close attention to the licensing agreement of the music that you plan to use. Unless you're using royalty-free music or compose your own music, most music is subject to stringent copyright restrictions that could land you in some sort of legal debates or problem if you don't play by the rules. There are hundreds of sites that offer royalty-free background music and sound effects, and I personally use Audio Jungle for a lot of my corporate videos, as well as the Music Bed for more specific emotive pieces, and I find myself using no copyright sounds on YouTube more and more for upbeat dubstep-esque pieces of music. Links to all of those down in the description below. Number 12, time to build. So it's time to actually start putting the rough cut of your marketing video together. Now, editing a sequence can get very complicated very quickly and very messy very quickly, so make sure that you tidy up your clips as you work. I often refer to a video editor crafting a video to a builder who is building a house. First of all, you start with a foundation, then you need to put up some supports like pillars or walls, and then you add things like doors and windows, and finally, you're free to decorate the house. And this is kind of how I approach my marketing videos. First of all, I put the music layer or music layers down, and these act as my foundation. Everything else is going to be built on top of those. Then I find some upbuilding, emotive, inspiring snippets from people presenting or from interviews or vox pops, and I will place these on top of the music layer at different parts of the video. And these act as pillars or walls for the video, and they really help to build the story. Then I find my best establishing shots, maybe of the venue or of the product, or maybe at an event, it might be a large audience of people clapping. Whatever the promo video is actually for, I find decent establishing shots, and I will place these as opening and closing scenes for the video, and these act as my doors and windows for my promo. And finally, when all of that is done, I will go to my B-roll folder with the best cuts, and I will cut in the best or weave in the best parts of B-roll in line with the music and narration, and fill in all the gaps. And this really helps to tell the story. It decorates the house or the video. Of course, afterwards, you might want to move things around or mix things up, maybe move some speeches or narration of people around, or perhaps you might want to slowly reveal the product or slowly build anticipation for something. But whatever you do, make sure that you keep that storytelling element. So that is my breakdown for creating a marketing video. It was a long one, I do apologize, but I hope you found the content useful. If you did, please do share it and also consider subscribing. We've got a bunch of filmmaking tips and tricks videos on our website, kaicreative.co.uk, and of course on our YouTube channel, Kaicreative. Go check those out. If there are any particular filmmaking or videography questions that you have, then let me know down in the comment section below. So that's it from me, guys. Stay creative, imagine, implement, and inspire, and I will catch you next time on Kaicreative.